An older defense attorney entered the courtroom and approached and said, "Miss, do you think you could run along and let the judge know that we're here and we're ready for trial?" Went out with the robe on, and his face was priceless. I then entertained his motion to ask for a change of venue to have his case go before another judge, but I assured him that the fact that he had been probably both sexist and ageist would not affect my opinion in the case, and we did proceed to try his case, and he was satisfied. My parents were the first generation born in the United States. My grandparents and several aunts and uncles had been born both in Russia and Poland, and they had come to the United States under difficult circumstances, fleeing persecution in their homelands. I was raised with a keen sense that I was privileged and that I had things a lot easier than a lot of other people, and it did not absolve you from responsibility to do something about the fact that conditions were not the same for everyone. First of all, I am grateful that our court... I had been an attorney at the Legal Services for the Elderly Poor. While I was in the court attorney position, I was still able to do pro bono work consisting of political asylum cases, landlord-tenant cases. I was drafted, you might say, from my community to become a civil court judge. That means that the people that I spent time representing felt that it was important for someone like me to represent the district in which they lived. They did not have the funds to carry out a primary campaign. My 5-year-old son Daniel came to me and said, "Mom, when you're a judge, are you still going to be a mommy?" So during my induction speech in front of a courtroom of about 500 people, I told him in front of all those important people, our friends, my future colleagues on the bench, I was telling him and his younger brother Eric that being their mommy was always going to be my most important job. There were not a tremendous amount of women on the bench at that time, but we were an up-and-coming segment of the judiciary during the 20 years that I spent on the bench in New York. I retired from the bench in 2010 and moved with my husband to Fort Myers. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that being the director of the Fair Food Standards Council is one of the most fulfilling and exciting retirements that anyone could have. I read about the agreements at the Coalition of Immokalee Workers. I didn't know that when I approached the Coalition of Immokalee Workers that the Fair Food Standards Council was in formation, and in fact that they thought that somebody with my experience from the bench as an objective fact finder and someone who had made difficult decisions during the course of their career would be valuable in this enterprise that was about to be launched. I knew how long agricultural workers had faced exclusion and disenfranchisement and marginalization and abuse, and here was a solution that growers were positing, that buyers were positing together with workers, and the idea that that would be in jeopardy was something that I couldn't turn away from. We went to visit participating growers to see that they had the systems in place to implement the Fair Food Code of Conduct, which they had agreed to on their farms. Everything from direct hire to zero tolerance provisions for forced labor and sexual assault, weapons, violence of any kind. The Fair Food Program is a voluntary program, but it has very strong market incentives and market consequences. Growers participated in the drafting of the Code of Conduct together with workers and consumers. This way, their produce can be sold to all participating buyers who now represent a very substantial percentage of the market. Buyers and consumers can be assured that the produce that they are buying was harvested under humane and just conditions. This beautiful pilot collaboration between growers, workers, and buyers in Florida's tomato industry is serving as a national and an international model for a human rights-based code of conduct. We are very proud that participating growers and buyers and workers seem to be satisfied with the enforcement and the monitoring efforts of the Fair Food Standards Council, and the work is going forward.